Namaste everyone and welcome to another edition of the Ram and Sagar Ramayan review from the Hindu Pod. My name is Pradeep and I'm the dad.
My name is Vishala and I am the daughter.
Hello Vishala, how are you doing today?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm very happy to be back and to be talking Ramayan with you. Before we get started with today's episode, I have a little bit of feedback, and actually I should have said it last week, but it completely slipped me. This is a thank you to a devotee by the name of Nadira for locating this verse for us. And if you all remember, a couple weeks back, we were speaking about the Swayamvar and as to whether or not Ravana was at the Swayamvar. Well, as per Shri Charitmanas, when Raja Dashrath questions the messenger of Mithila about how Shri Ram and Lakshmana was doing, he starts to narrate the story of the Swayamvar to him, and the messenger of Mithila tells him that even Banasur and Ravana were bested by the bow of Lord Shiva. And this places Ravana at the Swayamvar. So I would like to thank Nadira very much for finding this verse for us. So Vishal, are we ready for today's episode?
Yep.
What episode are we going to be reviewing today?
Season 1, Episode 12.
And the name of that episode is?
Discussion on Dashrath's heir.
Very good. The IMDb description says, Vishwamitra releases Rama and Lakshman from his services and departs Ayodhya. King Dashrath decides to appoint Rama as his heir and to abdicate the throne, while the whole of Ayodhya celebrates. It has a rating of 9 stars. What do you think about that rating, Vishala?
Yeah, I think that's what I'd rate it too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I think this has been my favorite episode so far. I would probably give it as close to 10 as I can. It's a really, really good episode. I loved it. The original air date of this episode was the 19th of April, 1987. And where can we find these episodes of the Ramayan?
On YouTube.
Yep, and we have a link on the show notes as well. So what are your overall thoughts about this episode?
There was a lot of information in this episode, but the things that they discussed, like the things that they talked about, they taught like really good lessons in it. So
yeah, I'm amazed at this, right? So all the episodes are about the same. It's about 40 minutes. And for some reason, in some episodes, they're able to pack so much content in. In some other episodes, it's almost as though you have to look for what the story is. This is one of those episodes where there is so much in there. I mean, you and I were reviewing this episode today. We started at 11:30 and we were done about 5 o'clock this afternoon with all the information that was in there. There's so much information in this episode. I really, really liked it. So before we get started with today's episode, in doing research on the contents of it, I came across this short story in the Adhyatma Ramayan written by Shri Veda Vyas. And in this story, Shri Ram and Sita Mata is relaxing after having returned to Ayodhya after the wedding. Shri Ram is enjoying his time with Sita Devi, and Lord Brahma is seeing this and he becomes worried. So he sends his son, Narad Muni, to address Shri Ram. Narad Muni arrives and he pays his respects to Shri Ram and Sita Devi. Shri Ram asks him, "To what do I owe the honor of your visit?" Narad Muni tells him, he is sent by his father, Lord Brahma. He says, "Prabhuji, please forgive me. Brahma is my father and he is your son. So therefore, I am your grandson. And as such, I am asking for your pardon for disturbing you. But my father is worried that the time is passing and your father will soon crown you as the king of Ayodhya. But as king, you will not be able to fulfill your destiny as the slayer of the demon Ravana. So please, Lord, it is time for this pastime to begin." So Shri Ram tells him, I am aware of this. However, it has to be a gradual process. So tomorrow, I will leave for Dandaka forest and I will be there for 14 years. During this time, I will gradually slay the demons one by one as their destiny dictates. And under the excuse of Sita's abduction, I will slay Ravana and liberate Prithvi Ma from his clutches. Narada, being pleased with this response, he bows to Shri Ram and Sita Mata and he returns to his father to put his mind at ease. So going forward, as we listen to the stories of Ramayan from the Ramanand Sagar Ramayan, let's continue to bear in mind that all that we're seeing is dictated by the will of Shri Ram and Sita Mata. He himself is saying that this is what it is that's going to happen even before it happens. And now we get to see it as it plays out. So it is very important for us to keep that in mind as we go forward. So Vishala, we're ready to start with today's review.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you go ahead and start with a recap and I'll jump in where I can.
Okay. So the episode starts with Bharat and Shatrughan and they're walking down the hallway. And then it switches over to King Dashrath, KK, and Prince Yudhajit.
And Prince Yudhajit, of course, is KK Mata's brother.
So they're all talking and Prince Yudhajit is telling Dashrath that his father is ready for him to go home. And Dashrath says that if that's what he wants, then he won't hold him back.
Right.
Although he doesn't want him to leave as KK misses him and would like for him to stay.
Mm-hmm.
KK said that she requested for her brother to come, but after her father's orders, there's not much she can do now and she was forced to keep quiet. Bharat and Shatrughan come, and Dashrath asks for them to go with their uncle to his kingdom upon his request. They say that the grandfather is doing well, and they would like for Yudhajit to return with the two boys to meet him and the family. They ask for the boys to ask permission from their parents to leave, and Bharat says he will go and say bye to Ram and Sita first. They make their way to Ram and Sita, and they bowing to their feet and saying that they'll be leaving with their uncle. Ram says, "So uncle didn't listen, he's taking you away." Ram says, "Go ahead, stay in your maternal home for some time."
Yeah. So what we're seeing starting to happen here is so the pomp and circumstance of the wedding is, coming to an end, and everybody is starting to go back to their own place. So we have Prince Yudhajit, who had arrived for the wedding, and he wanted to spend some time with his sister and with her son, with Bharat. Now his father is ill, so he's coming back down to earth now. Now I have to go and take care of my duty. So Raja Dashrath says, okay, well, take Bharat with you and take Shatrughan with you, and so that they can go and spend some time with their grandfather as well. When Shri Ram says, so uncle didn't listen, it seems as though they might have had some kind of a conversation. They're trying to get him to stay a little bit longer, but he didn't want to stay, or he couldn't stay. He didn't have the ability to stay, so he had to leave. So I think that's what they meant when they said, so uncle didn't listen. And Shri Ram tells him, okay, you go ahead and spend some time with your maternal home.
Bharat says that he'll miss Ram so much that he wishes he could split himself in two parts,
yes,
so that Parthan could be with Ram at his feet.
So when he said that, I immediately thought to myself, well, the incarnation of Shri Ram itself is already a 4-part incarnation where the Lord splits himself into 4 parts and comes. And now Bharat is saying, well, I want to split myself in 2 more parts so that I could stay with you the whole time as well. So I thought that was kind of illuminating there.
He says even heaven isn't good enough after staying at his feet. Ram says he wouldn't be happy without Bharat either, but he must be there for his grandfather too.
So when he said that, I immediately thought about our relationship with God. And like in our hearts, this should be the feeling that we should have. It's like even heaven, the greatest thing that we can get is not complete. It's not good enough if we cannot enjoy the company of Shri Ram. If Ram is not there, then it doesn't serve us any good. And then imagine how great it would be to have the Lord say to you, well, I will not be happy without you either. If I am away from you, imagine Shri Ram is telling you, if I am away from you, then I myself will not be happy either. So that union between us and the Lord is so important that Shri Ram is telling us here. You think this is difficult for you. Imagine how difficult it is for me to be away from you.
Ram says he would like to go with him, and Bart like shoots up, and he said that he should come. And Ram says how someone has to be there for their father. When he and Lakshman were gone, he and Shatrughan were there. Now it's his time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Ram says that if he misses Bart, he will ask for him to come home soon. Bart says, please do, call me under some pretext.
Yeah, make up some excuse. Please, Rama. Do make up some excuse and call me. I want to come.
They bow, and the scene switches to Vishwamitra and Vashishta. Vishwamitra says how whenever they speak about leaving, Dashrath always avoids the issue.
Mm-hmm.
And Dashrath has Vashishta's support. Vashishta says it's true. He doesn't want to let him go, just like Dashrath. Vishwamitra says he also doesn't want to leave. He wants to keep seeing Lord Ram constantly. But it's time for them to leave. They must tell the king that they should be allowed to leave. Scene cuts to Dashrath, Vishwamitra, and Vashishta, and he says how it's very hard to let him go. It's because of him their dynasty is able to reach its peak. He didn't expect this, and if they made any mistakes, to forgive them.
So when he says, because of you, our dynasty has reached its peak, what do you think he's talking about here?
So, you know how Vishwamitra kind of did things to make things play out the way they're supposed to play out? I think that's what it could have meant, but probably not, because I'm not sure if Dashrath would have known that. Yeah,
so in my opinion, I think what he's talking about is the fact that Vishwamitra took Shri Ram and Lakshman under his own wing, and he trained them. He gave them all the powers of all the weapons that he had control over. He took them and gave them practical experience in the battlefield in terms of fighting with the demons and all of that. It is because of Vishwamitra that they're blessed with 4 queens to come, and this now is the future of the kingdom. So a person's wealth is in their children, right? The power of a person is in their children. And what Vishwamitra has done is he has taken the children of Raja Dashrath and he has made them powerful. He has given them everything that they need. When he credits him with the success of their dynasty, I think this is what he's talking about, the way that he has treated his children and made them powerful. He also says to Vishwamitra that if I have made any mistakes, please forgive me. He says, you will not leave Ayodhya and now it belongs to you. Dashrath says that me and my family are your servants, so please stay.
Vishwamitra says that all this love is making him weak due to attachment, and now is a good time to break that.
Mm-hmm.
When a duty...
Yeah, this is a very important lesson that Vishwamitra is about to teach him.
When a duty is successfully completed, a man should move on to his future path. Now that he's feeling all of this, he's been trapped by illusion. Dashrath asks if someone like Vishwamitra is trapped like illusion, what do ordinary people like them do? He is a kind and great man who has used his meditative powers to create a new heaven for King Trishanku in space.
Yeah, so we actually talked about this in our episode about Guru Vashishta. So if anybody wants to get some clarification on that, just go back to that episode and we deal with that in great detail. So what Vishwamitra is talking about here is opulence, right? So he's talking about, I am here and you have made me feel so welcome. I've become so used to all of this convenience and all of that, that it's making me attached. I am becoming attached to all of this. And the time has come now for me to break that attachment. This bond of love that you're giving me is causing me to become attached, and this is no good for me. It's time for me to leave. So he's trying to make the case to Raja Dashrath. He's trying to explain to Raja Dashrath why all of this is the reason. The things that Raja Dashrath is using as the reason for him to stay is the same things that Vishwamitra is using to tell him, well, this is the reason I have to go, is because I have all of this. And Raja Dashrath is telling him, but you are so great and you are so powerful. You're talking about these things that affect mortal men as though it will affect you. You're so powerful. Look, you created a whole galaxy for Trishanku. How is this going to bother you? If it bothers you, then what's to say for the rest of us? You know, us regular people that can't control our minds as well as you. What's there to say for us?
Vishwamitra says he's speaking of his greatness, but doesn't he remember his moments of downfall? He speaks of his bad moments and says after reaching the summit of achievements, one must be careful or one will destroy his years of penance in no time.
So when Menaka came to distract him, he was at his peak power, and he was filled with ego and arrogance. He thought that he was the greatest, but Menaka's beauty entrapped him, and he forgot his spirituality. Even though he knew full well that lust would make him fall, he could not help himself from being attracted to her. And in that one moment, he lost his power and all his years of penance. He says that illusion is a great cheat, and it takes many forms. The time I'm telling you about is when my arrogance was captured by illusion. Even Vashishta was attacked by me. But he was so compassionate to me that he saved me from that illusion. And he's telling Raja Dashrath that, but today I'm faced yet again with that lure of attachment. So he's begging Raja Dashrath. Raja Dashrath says, no, you can't go. So he's begging Raja Dashrath. He says, look, if you keep me back, I know my limitations. Right? He's done all of this in his life, and he knows what he can do, how much he can take. And he's telling Raja Dashrath, please let me go, because this attachment will cause me to fall again. So this is his case that he's making to Raja Dashrath. And I think it's very educational for us to see that even somebody as great as Vishwamitra has the presence of mind and the understanding of how much he can do, how much he can take. And he knows his physical limitations. He's willing to let Raja Dashrath know how much. And he's not trying to make himself greater than he is.
Vishwamitra explains that the texts say that when someone completes their worldly duties, they must break away from their family's emotional bonds at the right time to move on to spiritual enlightenment. So here he's talking about attachment and detaching, right? So if you're like in the process of detaching from the world, do you still feel emotion towards your family? Like, for example, if something happens to a family member, would you still feel something?
Yeah, definitely. So trying to be detached from the happenings of the world doesn't mean that you lose any feeling for those around you. If we look back on Raja Janak, right? So we always talk about Raja Janak as being a realized soul and, somebody being detached from this material world. And yet when Sita Mata got married, he had such a hard time letting go of her, right? It's very easy to fall back into that rhythm, to fall back into that feeling of wanting to be close to those people around us. So it's very easy, even though you try to practice detachment, you try to practice surrender. It's very easy to fall back into that. Now, later on in the same episode, we see Raja Dashrath understanding this, knowing this. He tries as hard as he can to separate himself from his family so that when the time comes, he would not fall back into that. You and I in this material world, we can try, We can try to separate ourselves as much as we can from those around us, from the material things around us, from all opulences around us. But it's not 100% perfect. We will not be able to 100% be able to do that. It is only by the grace of God that we pray to Lord Krishna, we pray to Lord Ram, and we ask him for that. And we keep saying, Lord, I surrender to you. Everything that I do for you. I beg of you to please help me to detach from this material world. It is by his grace and by his blessing we're able to do that. Even then, sometimes we find that we'll fall. When you fall, it's no problem. Listen to the scriptures. All that we've been talking about for all of these weeks, we keep seeing example after example of all of these great people that they keep falling back. They keep falling back. That's okay. When you realize you've fallen, you get up, you go again. You try again. You keep doing the same thing over and over again. That effort that you're putting into detachment is what counts, right? We might not 100% be able to detach, but the effort that we put into it is what actually counts. The Lord sees that. The Lord sees that you're trying. And because you're trying, he will help you. And you'll see it. You'll see that will happen.
Vishwamitra says, if he misses out, he will wake up only when he dies. That's why it is best to wake up oneself. What did he mean by that?
Yeah, so when he says you will only wake up when you die, there's a certain realization that you come to when you die, and that means it's the big picture you see. But at that point, it's too late to do anything about it. The only form that exists that you have the ability to move forward spiritually is this material body, this human body that we have, right? When we're in this body, we can move ahead and we can take steps to attain moksha. Now, what they're specifically talking about in this episode is that move from the Grihastha ashram to Vanprastha ashram to the sannyasa ashram. When you give up all the material things in the Vanprastha ashram and you move to the sannyasa ashram, right, where all you're focusing on is God, and you're doing everything in your power to try to attain spiritual enlightenment and to attain moksha, you get the chance to do this in this material world. Right? You get the chance to attain moksha while in this life itself. But if you don't go through that, if you don't try and if you don't try to attain that level of spirituality in this life, then when you die, it's too late. Right? So that's what he means by trying to wake yourself up in this life. The realization that you would have gotten in death, it's this much greater. It's that much greater when you can achieve that realization in this life. So therefore, you can do something about it.
So he asks Vashishta permission to leave, and Vashishta responds saying that Vishwamitra's presence there spreads a spiritual radiance, and he doesn't want to be away from it. But still, sages must not stop their duties that they perform. So he supports what Vishwamitra has to say. Dashrath finally gives in and tells Vashishta to tell Suman to prepare Vishwamitra for his departure. The scene cuts to Dashrath, and he is thinking over what Vishwamitra said. And it was like things that Vishwamitra was talking about, like the texts say that when someone completes their worldly duties, all that stuff.
Yeah, so Raja Dashrath, now that he has some time to think and to reflect, he realizes that whole conversation that he had with Vashishta and Vishwamitra, actually all of this also applies to me. So he starts thinking about it and he starts to reflect and he comes to a realization.
He looks at himself in the mirror and he sees that he has all of these like gray hairs and stuff. Him thinking back on Vishwamitra's words make him think of like, is that now his time to do that?
Yeah, so Raja Dashrath is looking at himself and he's seeing all this gray and he starts to think, and there's this beautiful song that plays, and the meaning of the song is, the hair has grown white and the body is tired. There is no more burden to carry. Attachment is something that is cast aside for self-knowledge. Now, what this is talking about is attachment would be the Grihastha ashram, right? And that is cast aside for self-knowledge, which would be the sannyas ashram. So this is what the song itself is talking about. In this last chapter of life, the sannyas ashram, give up and take on knowledge. Hand over the kingdom to Rama, meditate, and improve your life. So this is something that Raja Dashrath, in his reflection, he comes to realize, and now he decides he's going to do something about this.
The scene switches to Vashishta in his ashram. He's informed that Dashrath is there, and he's quite surprised to hear this. Dashrath asks if he could have some time and speak with him in private, and Vashishta says yes. They go to an area by themselves, and Dashrath asks if the Guru gives you his blessings, all your wishes will come true without trying. He says that he gained everything in life by worshipping at his feet. He has only one last wish, and he'll be blessed to have it fulfilled. Dashrath brings up Ram, saying he's eligible in every way. Everyone respects him and is dear to everyone. He would like to hand over the work of Ayodhya to him. He asks Vashishta that if he can grant Ram the kingship, he would be able to see his coronation. Then whether he lives or dies, he will not regret anything.
Yeah, so he's treating this as this is his last wish. It's almost as though, yeah, this is all I want to see for the rest of my life. You know, after this, if I live, if I die, it's okay. But let me see Shri Ram coronated as king.
Vashishta says that Dashrath's words are correct and apt, but he will have to arrange an assembly to do this. The kings of the subsidiary kingdoms, ministers, officers, and thinkers leading citizens would be called, and they will seek their acceptance for this proposal.
Yeah, so this is one of those times where we are reminded that Dashrath is not really a king. He is an emperor because he actually rules over multiple kingdoms. He is in charge of all of those. So when he says, call the kings of the subsidiary kingdoms, he's talking about all of those kingdoms that he controls. And what he's saying is, we will seek the acceptance for this proposal so we can give Rama an emperor status unanimously. This is the way of your clan, and you must follow it. Now, one way to do this would have been to just coronate Rama and then tell everybody, Rama is your new king, right? He's your new emperor. But instead of doing that, what they have decided to do is that let us get the input from everybody else that's involved, everybody else that this is going to affect. Let us get their input. So once they agree, it is less likely that we will have some type of a revolution, that people are going to disagree and they would want to start a war or anything like that. So it's actually it's a very sensible, it's a very brilliant approach to handling this situation.
The scene cuts to Dashrath on his throne, addressing the kings that he invited. He says that he's been doing things with the need to serve people.
So, you notice who's missing here?
King Janak.
Yes, King Janaka is missing, and also Ashwapati, who is the father of Kaikeyi, and Yudhajit, who is, Kaikeyi Mata's brother. So, according to the Ramayan of Valmiki, Raja Dashrath thought that he wanted to get this done as quickly as possible. And he assumed that Raja Yudhajit and Raja Janaka would be okay with his decision to do this. So he called all the other kings, but he did not call them because he was under the assumption that with them it would be okay. Now this is kind of setting up events for the future. When Kaikeyi gets to find out, and she finds out that her father didn't know anything, and her brother her brother had left, and Bharat is gone. So you're seeing what's happening here, right? It's almost as though, although we know that this is not what happened, this is not the way it played out, In Kaikeyi's mind, it will start to look like this. You waited till Bharat left. You waited till Shatrughan left. You waited until Yudhajit left. You didn't tell my father anything. You didn't tell Janak anything. Right? You waited till Vishwamitra left. All of these people that could have stood up and could have said something to the contrary of Sri Rama being king, you waited for all of them to leave. And then you made that decision, and now you're trying to rush the decision. Right? So this is something that is happening, a little bit of the drama that is playing out. Raja Dashrath does not mean for it to be the way it seems, but yet this is the way it seems.
So like I said, he says he's been doing things with the need to serve people. But as his ancestors have done in the same way in the last days of life, he will seek solace in Banprasth and Sannyas. He says he seeks permission to hand over the kingdom to his son Ram completely. He says he wishes to have his coronation done soon. If it is acceptable with everyone and they agree, then to allow him to do so. If he is thinking in the wrong direction, please tell him without any hesitation.
Right. So this is a great way to go about it, right? You call all of these people, you lay out your case, you say, this is what my thinking is. But if you disagree, then tell me. I want to know. You tell me what you think. But again, the problem with that is that all of these people were not invited. So although he's saying, tell me, I want to know, perhaps you didn't tell everybody to come and give their input.
I feel like even if he assumed that Janak would be okay with it, I feel like he still should have invited him.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. It's just, again, he's thinking one thing, but I'm positive, I am sure that had he reached out to Raja Janak would have said yes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Right?
I'm sure
he would have said yes. Raja Yudhajit more than likely would have said yes. Because if you think about it, the person that caused all the trouble was Mantara. Right? Did I say Yudhajit? Raja Ashwapati. I'm sure he would have said yes had he reached out to him. Because if you think about it, the person that made all the trouble was Mantara. It was Mantara that got into the head of Kaikeyi Mata and started that whole chapter rolling. Right? So had he reached out to Raja Ashwapati and Raja Janaka, more than likely they would have supported it and there would not have been a problem. But because it was not done 100% the way it should have been done, now we have a problem.
So one of the kings stood up, saying that they were thinking the same ideas. They all say that they agree wholeheartedly. Dashrath asks them why they accepted it. Was it because he proposed it, or because he wants it? He wants to know why they want Ram to be king.
Yes, he's like, don't just go along with it because I say it. You tell me now. You tell me. I want to hear from you. What is your reasoning behind agreeing to have Rama as your emperor?
One of the kings stood up, saying that Ram is truthful, honest, and moral. They continue saying things about Ram one by one. One of them says he can be a master and a friend at once. Vashishta says that this is the best thing about him. It is the best sign of being a king. These are all reasons why Ram is worthy of being king. He says everyone agrees and calls Ram to the assembly for Dashrath to make his decision. Dashrath tells Suman to call Ram, and the scene cuts to Ram, asking why he's being called to court. Suman says that he'll know when he gets to court. He should go there soon. The king has commanded it. Those words make Ram think, has he made a mistake? Because why else would his father call for him?
Yeah.
Sita comes in, saying that he can't make any mistake. She says that she's sure it's just an important courtly matter. Suman says there are officials from the subsidiary kingdoms. Everyone has been gathered for special tasks. He has been summoned at once. The next scene shows Ram making his way to his father, seeing all the kings in the room. He bows to his father's feet and says that he's arrived. Dashrath signals something to Vashishta, and Vashishta explains that all those present in the court have decided unanimously that he will be crowned prince and crowned.
Yeah. So you notice Shriram's facial expression.
Yes.
As soon as he heard that,
Yeah.
his face just drops.
Yeah. So Ram's smile immediately vanishes.
Yeah.
And Vishishta explains that given his talents, everyone believes that he could be a just and righteous king. His popularity does it. When he becomes king, there is no chance of any breach of peace.
Right.
His bravery will protect the kingdom, so no one would be worried. This is why he must accept being a king. He must take charge of the kingdom's duty. He must take charge of the kingdom's duties.
Yeah, so Rama at this point, he is perplexed and he wants to know. He's seeing this as a punishment rather than an opportunity. And he says, forgive me for my rudeness, but I don't think that this is correct. I believe that Father has used his fame and his bravery to spread success in the three realms. While he is around, I cannot accept to be king. How can anyone even think that? He says, the king who has so far loved his subjects, and even after offering his life for them, I cannot repay him. Would I remove him from his kingdom to be king? Even thinking of it is truly unjust to me. He says that Dashrath is not to be blamed for this. He thinks that he has done something wrong. This is Shriram now. He's internalizing what is happening here. He's like, so, no, my father cannot be blamed for this. It's something that I have done. I have done something wrong. And that is why you all have decided to punish me.
Dashrath says that they're not to blame and that this is his proposal. He says that he has experienced a lot in his life. He has been through many oblations and rituals. But as long as he is king, he can't be free of paying his debt to his subjects. He has grown old now, and that's why the burden of looking after the people is Ram's to bear, and he wants the rest now.
Right, so what he's talking about here, when he says, I've done all these ritualistic sacrifices, yeah, you could do puja, right? You can do puja, you could do worship, you could do yagna, while you still are under the grahastha ashram, while you still have the duty of the king, but you still have the duty of the king. You still have to perform these actions. You are still bound to these actions. And in asking Rama to take up that burden from him, Rama is going to relieve him from that. So now I don't have to worry about my kingdom. I don't have to worry about my subjects. I don't have to worry about any of these kings that's here, because it will be your burden. And because I don't have that dharma to perform anymore, I don't have that duty to perform anymore, now all of a sudden, I can focus my life, I can worship, and I can do all of this just for moksha, because I don't have to worry about all the other dharmas that I would have had to perform. So Rama says, to serve the people and to fulfill the king's duty, it's not essential for him to be king. He says, Father, I could do all of that. Whatever it is that you're talking about, I can do all of that, but I don't have to be king to do that. I could do that just sitting at your feet. I could do that as being as your servant. I can do all of this.
Dashrath says, Ram, only you can do this because you are the ideal man. He tells his son that he is getting carried away in his wish to serve him. His son is also his father's friend. If he was thinking like a friend, then he would think of what's good for his father. He would never say something that would only show a son's attachment. It doesn't show the friendship of a friend.
And so Shriram says, well, Father, how can you think that I don't care about you? So after the words of his father, Rama has to stop and he has to think that Raja Dashrath, his father, is not understanding what it is that he's trying to tell him. So that's why he says that, how can you even think that I don't care about you? But then Vashishta stands up and he says, Vashishta says, well, let me answer that for you. At length, he talks about the prescribed duty of his father. And he says, let me answer that. There's an effort required to get the 4 materials in this world. And these 4 materials that he's talking about is dharma, or prescribed duty, artha, or wealth, or material opulence, Kama, lust or sensual gratification, and moksha, which is that final liberation. So these are the 4 targets, the 4 goals that we should have in this life. He says, for a brave person who puts in these 4 and does his duty, his last duty is to develop himself spiritually. Life has entered this body from elsewhere. This body also will die someday. That is why after this, life has to go forth. And where to? You must think of this, clearing the way ahead. This is also a prime duty. Before death severs his worldly bonds, a man should break those bonds himself and seek to link his soul to the Paramatma. So again, he's talking about doing all of this before death, right? At the point of sannyas, when you give up everything, this is where you get the chance to do this, to link your soul while alive to Paramatma. Don't you want your father to improve his life and the afterlife? Don't pull your father down with chains of attachment. Right now, your feelings as a son are powerful. So he's telling him you have a dharma as a son and you're allowing that to take precedence. But you must remember that your duty is greater than emotion. Right now, this is your duty. Your duty is to become king. Leave your emotions and attachments behind.
Ram says that there are moments in life when one can't decide what is his correct duty. This is one such moment. Dashrath gets up, walking over to his son. Dashrath says, "What the Guru is saying is best for me. Accept the commands of the Guru. Help your father to make his connection with the infinite." "Ram, this is my command as well as my request." Ram responds saying, "No, I am your son. I serve your subjects and obey you in every way. I will obey you no matter what you say. It will be my only duty and I will accept it." All the kings and everyone there start cheering, and Dashrath hugs Ram. Dashrath says, "Ram, a father who can see his son's glory, his joy knows no bounds." He then turns to Vashishta. There is no point in delaying Ram's ritual ascension.
Yeah, he's talking about the coronation. So Shri Ram himself, it's not until his father gives him an order. And he says, this is my order as well as my request that I want you to do this. That is when Shri Ram says, okay, I will do it. As long as it was his choice to do, he would say no. But because it is his order, it is an order from his father, he says yes.
Sumant says that this task must be conducted very soon, and Vashishta agrees. One of the kings say that they all wish to see Ram crowned and then leave. Vashishta says, tomorrow the moon will be favorable, and that's why tomorrow is the best day for the coronation.
So you've seen what's happening here now. So this would have been the second opportunity for him to invite Raja Janak, for him to invite Raja Ashwapati, to have the family of Kaikeyi there, to witness the coronation. And because of how quickly they're trying to get it done, none of this is going to happen. This will be like another check against him that he tried to rush the coronation without allowing Bharata to have any say. So Shri Ram even speaks up. He says, but tomorrow will be too soon. He says, Bharat and Shatrughan are not even here. But Suman says, Bharat cannot return so soon. I think that this is a good decision as per royal protocols. And then Guru Vashishta, he speaks up. He says, the next good date will be much later. And that is why we must announce it to everyone, everywhere at once. Tomorrow morning, Shri Ram will be crowned.
Dashrath calls for Sumant, saying that Vashishta and Maharishi Javali will be given guidelines which you must prepare for. He tells Ram that he must follow the Guru's lead and obey some fasts and conduct venerations.
Again, before you do anything, you start with puja. So this is what he's telling him to do. So from here, we cut to Kaushalya, and she's getting the news of the coronation from Mataji Sumitra. So this is something, you and I had talked about this, and as we were as we're reviewing the episode, we're watching it, I remember telling you, I get the impression that Raja Dashrath is doing all of this, and he has not included the queens. He has not gotten their say in any of this. And sure enough, we see it here that this entire episode has happened, and the queens have no knowledge that Shri Ram is being considered to be crowned as the emperor.
So the scene switches to Kaushalya, Sumitra, and Lakshman. Sumitra tells Kaushalya that Ram will be king, and she gets super excited. Lakshman says he did it in full view of the public, very proudly. He tells Kaushalya that he will be crowned king tomorrow. Kaushalya turns to a Murti of Vishnu, saying, Lotus-eyed one, this is all because of your mercy. Then Ram walks in, bowing to his mother's feet. He says that his father said he'll be crowned tomorrow, and he's come to seek his mother's blessings. Kaushalya blesses him, saying, May the royal reign of Ayodhya rest on you, and make your mothers proud. Make your mothers, your brothers, and the subjects very happy. He bows again before bowing to Sumitra and getting blessings from her. She says, Be a king who adds to the glory of our clan. Kaushalya says her lifelong worship of Lord Vishnu has paid off. May the clan deity bless you, she says to Ram. May you get the power to protect the Suryavansh clan. Ram says that with his mother's blessings, he is now strong and willed, and it will stabilize him. Sumitra turns to Lakshman, saying so far he has been protected by his elder brother, but from now on he has to be his king's first servitor and his bodyguard. She turns to Ram and says, Be the ideal king and live your life. She tells Lakshman, Ram is his lord from now on. Ram says that Lakshman is his second soul. Lakshman is what Ram is. What he endures, he will always be a part of that equally. He says, Lakshman, my life and my royal glory are all for you. Lakshman says, Brother, my life has always been for your service. It will continue to be so. Kaushalya says to the two brothers to give this news to Sita and Urmila. The two boys say yes, and Lakshman says that Sita will be thrilled to know.
Yeah, and that brings us to the end of the episode. There was so much in this episode, so much to talk about. And I know this one goes for quite a bit, that our review is a little bit longer than the others. But again, there was a lot to cover, and a lot that we didn't cover, actually, that we could have. But before we go, there's a few things that we want to talk about. So, Vishala, what stood out to you in this episode?
So, you know how Ram, like, whenever he hears news or something that, like, should be surprising, he, like, usually handles it, like, calmly? So, when he heard the news that he was gonna be king, he, like, looked sort of panicked, when usually he handles things calmly. But this time he looked really scared.
Yeah, it's almost as though he was really thrown off his game there.
Yeah.
And he was like, wait, what? Where is this coming from? Because in his mind, he's thinking, maybe I might be king, but it will happen after the passing of my father. Now, they're calling him to the court without any advance warning. And as soon as he shows up, he's like, listen, you're going to be king. You're going to be king tomorrow, pretty much. And he has no time to think about it. So this is why he has that expression. For me, what really stood out for me was the transformation of Guru Vishwamitra. The perception of him from the first time when we saw him arriving in Ayodhya. Remember the fear and the panic that everybody had when they heard, Vishwamitra is here, knowing the episode with him and Guru Vashishta, thinking that he's here to fight. That was the first thing that they were thinking. And then now the last time that we see Guru Vishwamitra, Raja Dashrath is begging him to stay. He has become so close to them, and they think so highly of him. They feel so close to him. So that, that relationship really stood out to me. Is there anything in particular that you liked about the episode?
I really liked the lessons they gave. They gave some lessons about attachment, and that's something I wonder about a lot. So it was nice to hear some stuff about it here.
Oh, yeah. It's similar for me. I like the explanation of the Vanprastha and Sannyasi ashrams, and especially how a child's action, like when you look at them coming to Shri Ram and telling Shri Ram, look, if you don't take the throne, then your father cannot move on with his ashram of sannyasa. So, how it shows the children's actions and how that can affect the parents' desire to enter the senior ashrams in life. I like the way that they explain that. How about dislike? Is there anything that you disliked about the episode?
No.
No? Everything was good?
I love this episode.
Yeah, for the most part, I myself, the only thing, and this has always been kind of my problem with a lot of these episodes. Like the wedding, they took 3 episodes from the start of the wedding to the end of the wedding till they got back to Ayodhya. And a good part of it felt like they just manufactured dialogue. They just manufactured time to fit into these episodes. And here we have an episode with so much packed in. I feel like had they given 2 episodes to the wedding and taken this one, and they could have easily broken this down into 2 episodes and still had a lot of material to cover. That's my only problem with it. That maybe this could have been 2 episodes. They could have stretched it out a little bit. Still, though, it's good. I loved it. I loved it very much. So do you think that we missed anything? Do you think we forgot anything?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think we're pretty good with that. I think we got most of it. If we forgot anything, please accept our apologies. If there's anything that you feel that we should have added in or you would like to add in, please feel free to reach out to us. This has been a presentation of the Hindu Pod. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and rate this episode, since this helps to bump us up in the feeds, and that helps others to find the podcast. Please send comments to thehindupod@gmail.com, or you can text us at 281-804-9616. You can just search Facebook for The Hindu Pod. If you live in the Houston area, you can find us on most Sundays at the Sanatan Dharam Mandir for Sunday morning satsangs. We are located at 12918 Player Street in Houston, Texas, 77045. And the Mandir is open on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. We are sponsored by HinduHandcrafts.com. Please visit HinduHandcrafts.com for Hindu religious-based items such as framed pictures, wall plaques, tapestries, t-shirts, clocks, and so on. They are perfect for puja use, home decor, or gifts. And until next time, Jai Shri Ram.